evening, everyone. We are starting at 7:30, almost on the dot for once tonight. So go us. Probably because it's just Jordan and I, and I blame Jason and Jordan for making us late every other time. They're not here to defend themselves, so that's on them. But yeah, episode 108 tonight. We have David Jones with us, who's the president of Keepers of Craft and our resident mole man, if you were. MOLE, moles, chemicals,
Okay, right.
moles. Yeah.
Hello.
um, so we've apparently never had a water episode. Shane is convinced we have. I went back and looked. I can't find one, but I only looked for the word like water in the name of our past episode. So could just be that we called it something else, called it something stupid, as we do. But we'll see. Regardless, it'll be a good show. Thank you for having us here, or thank you for being here, David.
Pleasure.
And
Let's hope we don't get too nerdy and too technical about it.
That's going to be you, because you are.
Because we will.
You know your shit. So before we get on to the show at large, some business. Michigan Beer Cup is open. So anybody that listens to the show or is in the club knows that Jason and I run the Michigan Beer Cup now. We are a little over halfway full. I think we're at 313 entries as of when I looked tonight. We just opened like 9 days ago, so pretty awesome. Thank you guys. Cap's at 500, so if you want to get in, make sure to enter soon. It's a Michigan-only competition this year. It was last year sort of too, but it's being a little bit more strictly enforced this year. So sorry for any out-of-state entrants. We still have talks or thoughts about potentially starting a spring competition, but still in the works. Michigan Beer Cup closes on 6/8, and then the drop-offs are open until 6/22. There's a bunch of drop-off locations all across Michigan, and then judging is going to be on July 20th. And then just before we started the show, for anybody that entered the Siciliano's homebrew competition this year, sheets are up. I know a couple guys that have gotten their sheets already. There was a small glitch right when they sent the original email about sheets, but they're up now, so I got mine. And then Big Brew Day is on May 4th. So literally Star Wars Day this year. Keepers of Craft is going to be celebrating at a sort of private parking lot. But if anybody who's listening who's like not in Keepers but maybe wants to be like, wants to check out what Big Brew Day is all about, message us, either me personally or the show, or find us somehow. And Jordan's trying to get in right now. I gotta give him a code real quick. And but anyway, we'd love to have you for Big Brew Day this year. What did we do, David?
It's all beers have to be Star Wars related. So it's a very loose guideline. I just want people to get together and have fun. So you can give your beer a Star Wars name. As I said the other day, you could try to ferment some milk, color it blue, and say that it's fermented banther milk. It doesn't bother me.
You
Just
could.
Yeah.
My preference would be not. I mean, or if you're going to, just don't tell me, I guess. Let me smell it first.
Yeah. So everyone just the members of the club were split up pseudo randomly into groups of 3. So I think there may be some groups of 4.
Mm-hmm.
We may even be having some students from the local brewing program come in. So we'll just get together, hang out, brew some beer. Let's be honest, probably drink some beer.
Yeah.
We'll have a grill out, and then our June meeting, usually we get together and judge the beers, and purely, no style guidelines, just purely.
We call it like hedonistically.
Yeah. So it's just which beer you prefer, which one you think. We don't usually even say about how well. Although there was the one where we won the wheat beer with the wheat IPA that people got pissy with us about. But so yeah,
it was a really good heavily hopped wheat beer, right?
yes.
Because IPAs weren't a style that was allowed in the competition. It was very good. Yeah. Jordan's here. What's going on, Jordan?
Hey there, how you guys doing? Sorry about being late. Had a little
No,
technical difficulty at the
nope,
beginning.
no worries at all. Jason's with his wife at their kids' graduation up north at Michigan Tech this week. So
Oh, all right.
that's why he's not here with us. Maybe he's listening in. We'll give you a shout out. I think Shayna voted for your beer, David. But he'll be on the next show, which I think will be in probably 2 weeks, because I think we'll have a lot going on the next week, with Big Brew Day and other things. So we'll see. What are you guys drinking tonight?
First, Jordan.
Guess I'll start off. Modelo.
Is that Modelo Negra?
Yeah, yep.
This is my Modelo Negra clone.
Yeah. I had not had this beer before. I kind of, after we did our tasting a number of weeks back, I saw it in the store. And I was like, I've never had it. I don't think I was a huge fan of the regular Modelo, so I was like, well, I'll pick up a 6-pack of it, and I'm slightly obsessed.
Yeah.
It's
definitely one of those beers that you think, why haven't I been drinking this my life?
Yeah, exactly. So, funny is you said you just made one, Brian. Once I get my kegerator back up and running, that's probably what I'm going to be making.
I'll give you the recipe if you want it. I got a 44.5 at Siciliano's.
Oh shit! Oh, that's. Why didn't you score more, Brian?
Gold. Yeah.
So to stay on brand, I'm drinking water.
There you go.
You get splashed a little vodka on there. Or...
Nope, this is just Brita water. I went shopping earlier, so I've got.
Do you have all the waters?
I've got spring water. I've got sparkling water. I've got pH 9 water.
No, you can buy that around here.
Yep, I've got perfectly balanced pH plus pH purified water, whatever that means. Regular old Dasani, and then some Gordon water.
Are you going to be doing like a live tasting with us tonight? Then
I'm going to be doing live tasting. I'm probably going to be dispiriting the toilet quite a bit.
That's awesome.
Because I've got about 3 gallons, 3 liters of water in there. So
that's a great idea. I love it. Well, why don't we start on that then? I guess maybe David, to start, why are we talking about water? Why is water so important, like in beer?
It makes up 95% or 95+% of your beer. So it's obviously the the largest percentage of any ingredient in your beer. So if you've got bad water, or if you've got duff water, your beer's you're going to taste it. So you need to really pay attention to what your water's doing. Around here in Kalamazoo, our water it's okay for brewing. Our local, we'll probably get into it later, but our the local water boards around here, they don't really chlorinate the water. They use chloramine instead. And the problem with chlorine and things like that is that you'll get that kind of bleach swimming pool flavor if you're not careful, and you can get some really weird off byproducts from the fermentation if you're not careful. So
yeah, a lot of people describe that as like Band-Aid flavors. So if you've ever tasted like Band-Aid, like in a home brew, most commonly that's from like brewing beer that had chlorine or chloramine, and it creates those chlorophenols that just taste like medicinal and blah. I think that Jordan, you and I sort of have like a story about base water for beer. I don't know if you remember, but maybe like 5 years ago, you had a beer and we were drinking it in your garage while brewing, and I was like, this, I mean this in like a whatever way, but this tastes like hose water. Like you're drinking like right out of your hose during the summer, and it has that sort of like rubbery, plasticky taste. Like
Yep.
it smells and tastes like I'm drinking it from a hose, and you're like, oh yeah, like that's what I used to make this beer. Like
Yep.
just right into the pot.
Yep.
and
Yep.
I mean, I think it just goes to show that like, I'm fine drinking hose water. I drank hose water growing up as a kid, but like that flavor completely transitions into the beer too, and just kind of
Oh,
sticks
it
around.
entirely
So,
did. And that was the last time I ever did that.
yeah,
Yep.
and you, I think I remember you saying that your beer, like, you loved it drastically more like after you
Yes.
stopped
Oh yeah.
doing that.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Definitely have enjoyed drinking my own beer a lot more ever since doing that, and ever since I started paying attention a bit more to water chemistry. I feel like it's played a huge role in the quality of my beer.
Yeah, my
So
my my very first the very first beer I ever brewed was smoked porter kit, and I didn't really know what I was doing.
nobody does.
And so I followed the instructions, and it said about top it off with because it was an extract kit, and it said brew everything under 3 gallons and then top it up to 5 with water, and I did that just straight out of the hose.
Yeah.
And I think I was lucky because it was a smoked porter. Any of those and any of that hose water flavor, I think got masked by the actual beer flavor. So I think I was lucky, but it wasn't until pretty much after I pitched the yeast I went, oh hang on, I didn't boil that water.
Yeah.
Whoops. So it's
Yep.
So Kalamazoo water you're just talking about. Do you have like a water profile for
I
Kalamazoo
do. I
water?
actually have it on my phone.
So when we talk about water profiles, we're talking about kind of like a rough like pH. I think as homebrewers we care about like gypsum levels, calcium, like chloride levels, if we can get that,
Yep.
or calcium, and then
There's
sulfate is
6.
what we're talking about. Yeah.
There's 6 ions that we typically care about. So calcium,
Yes.
magnesium, sodium. Those are 3 metals, and then sulfate, chloride, and then bicarbonate or carbonate. And then obviously the pH.
Mm-hmm.
There's also hardness levels and alkalinity. There's a bunch of other things that you can get, and obviously, so those are things that are important for brewing. Obviously, there's the other water cleanliness that that the city provides. Low for low heavy metals and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how much they impact beer flavor or brewing, but I say that those are the six ions that we're mostly interested
in. And I don't know if this is the same for every city, but I think that for Kalamazoo, they pull their water from a bunch of different aquifers, right? Like I don't know how many, but
or at least a couple of different wells. Yeah, my property, when I asked for my water profile from Portage, they gave me 3 well readings. So I think it's the water that services my property is it must be a blend of those 3.
So it can probably change a little bit during the year too.
Yeah, well, and what was actually kind of interesting was that looking at the 3 numbers that they gave me, one of them did have it was either I think it was the chloride levels. So 2 of them, the chloride levels were about the same. I think one of them was like 33 and one of them was 49 or something like that. Let's have a look. But then 36 and 27. No, that's sulfate.
Now, when you're talking about those numbers, that's parts per million.
ppm, yeah.
ppm.
Okay, so 119.68, and then one of them was 303. I was
Oh
like,
wow.
Oh,
why
that's
the
a
hell?
big difference.
Well, and then looking at the sodium was 63, 41, and 149. So
Wow.
one of those wells, it's got higher sodium and higher chloride. So it has higher sodium chloride.
Did they have it broken
Means
down by well, so we know that one well specifically was just thick?
they didn't tell me which one it was, but
Okay.
the numbers all came out that one of them had higher sodium and chloride levels, so obviously had more salt in the water. And let's be honest, it was probably that's probably runoff from the roads.
More than likely, yeah.
So it was actually kind of interesting, getting those numbers off the city. The city didn't give me all of those ions. They only test for the ones that they have to by the EPA. So they didn't get all of them. So I think roughly about the same time, just completely independently, Brian and I actually sent our water off to be tested with a local test setup here.
Mhm.
So
What'd that cost, if you don't mind me asking? Because I've wanted to get I'm on well, so I've got my own drill, so I'd be interested.
I knew somebody who worked there.
Okay.
So zip.
The hookup.
I think I sent mine out to Ward Labs once, and it was like $35, but that was
That's
like,
not bad.
yeah, it might have been like 8 years ago, so I don't know what they charge now, but I bet they still do it. They have specific like not kits, but like a specific grouping of tests just for like home brewers. So
Yeah, so those will give us, as I said, those six. So the sodium, calcium, magnesium, sulfate, chloride, bicarb, hardness. Might give us RA, so residual
pH.
alkalinity, pH. There was something else.
Yeah. Well, let's break those down. Maybe let's go
Yep.
into those and talk about why we even care about like how much chloride or gypsum or rather sulfate or whatever is in our water. Like, so what does like chloride often do, or do we start with like pH? Do we start with what a salt is? I don't know. It's up to you.
So pH.
We call this brewing salts, right? I guess we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can start there. If you hear somebody talk about brewing salts, it's not like table salt out of the cupboard. Like what is there like a chemical definition of like what a salt is?
Well,
Is
it's
it
it's just it's an anion and a cation that form it's just a
sort of like neutral, like charge neutral or whatever.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. So in sodium chloride, there's the positive sodium ion, which has got a charge of +1, which means it's lost an electron, and then there's the chloride ion, which has got -1, which means it's gained an electron, and the two of them just sit together in a lattice.
And they're just known as salts. So
yeah,
that makes sense. Chloride again, I guess then. So does what for beer? Why do we use it?
Chloride is a flavor. It's one of the flavor ions, and increased chloride up to a certain amount. Obviously, you don't want to go kind of off the scale, because then everything will either start to taste bad or possibly even be poisonous. I don't know. Because I think I think too much sulfate can really screw you up.
I can see that.
But chloride typically accentuates the maltiness of the beer. That's the way that it's always been described. And typically when we're adding, and I guess we'll get into adding brewing salts in a little bit, but typically when we're talking about adding chloride, we typically use calcium chloride. So it just means that there's one calcium ion, two chloride ions, so a CaCl2, And that's typically what we use for our chloride additions, because the other way to make chloride additions would be, as you mentioned, by adding table salts, which
okay.
you can do in a small amount, but you want to try to keep that salinity down. Otherwise, everything tastes like everything tastes like a goza.
Yeah. So then sulfates would sort of be the opposite direction, right? Those would add like maybe a little bit of like minerality and hardness and accentuate like hops. Then probably
that's
like
that's the way that it's always described. Yeah,
that's the way I've always learned it too. Like when you're brewing an IPA, if you're looking at like a ratio of like sulfate to chloride, most people have like a higher sulfate level than a chloride level, just to make that hop bitterness feel a little bit more firm. And the exception is with like New England IPAs, which go the opposite direction.
Completely swap around, yeah.
Because those are sort of known for their like pillowy mouthfeel and stuff. Even though I'm my preference for New England IPAs is to still have a little bit of firm bitterness. A lot of those recipes that you see out there, like they don't even have a bittering charge, but I'll die on the hill of bittering my New England IPAs. I tried without before, and I don't know, not quite my jam. But then like magnesium, like isn't there already like a ton of magnesium in malt? Like is there a reason to add more, or what does that do?
I'll be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I really don't know what.
I have never used. So have you guys ever anybody listening read The Water Book by
John Palmer and Colin Kaminsky?
Yeah. David and I were talking about this before the show started, and I tried to read it once, and I know I got to the end of it. I don't think I retained anything because I'm just not smart enough to like understand it. Chemistry was not like my strong suit in like high school. I don't think I ever took any in any college level classes, but that book put me to sleep really good. It was a really great falling asleep book. I liked it a lot, but
it is a
very sciencey.
It is a read. Yep.
So the little bit as I understand it, so I've never used anything that added additional magnesium really in my beers. I think Epsom salt and magnesium chloride are the two most common additions.
Yeah, and Epsom salts is magnesium sulfate.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so there's all sorts of Epsom salt almost all the time
in your beer.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think that the reason to do that is if you're already like maybe going to be too high on calcium. So, too much calcium in a beer maybe can start making it taste a little chalky.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't. I stick with gypsum and calcium chloride, and I don't feel any need to get any more complicated than that. Yep. But I feel at the same, tone, you do you. I mean, there's no reason not to. Matt Mead is here. He says he's used Epsom salts all the time as well. If you want to use that instead of like gypsum to, maybe not get so much calcium in the beer. Yeah.
So according to this, fermentation clarity, mash pH, but it's also supplied by malts. So you were correct. Magnesium is supplied by the malts, but it looks like it's magnesium. It isn't a flavor. It's more of a
yeast health thing.
Yeah.
And Paul's popping in to say, I thought you needed some proper yeast health. Yeah, for using RO. So totally with you, Paul.
Which is generally what I use is RO for brewing. So that's.
I've always been under the feeling that. So again, this is totally just by feel. Maybe I need to start using more Epsom salt. I've always felt that maybe there was going to be enough magnesium in the in the malts that wasn't going to be an issue, but shit, maybe I need to go for it.
I mean,
you go first.
I was going to say the amount that I add in is never much at all. I mean, if anything, it's usually the salt that is like the least. I think I bought a bag. It was like, I don't know, about yay big of Epsom salts, and I'll use like in a whole batch, like maybe like an eighth of a teaspoon, if that. So it's not a whole lot that I ever add in there.
Yeah, and I only really use it if I need to up the sulfate, but I don't want to throw a ton of calcium sulfate in there. So
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'll be honest. Like I'm going off of primarily, like, and this is probably going further on down the show, but like water profiles in terms of what I'm targeting, based off of like spreadsheets like Brew and Water, and just trying to target that profile. So that has all the different salts that you can add into it, and I just kind of fuck around with it until I get my target ion concentrations.
Mm-hmm. The and I'd have to go back and read this too, but in the new IPA book by Scott Janish, I believe there's also a reference to higher amounts of magnesium potentially having a impact on like haziness or even like oxidation and browning.
It said clarity in here, so yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
So maybe it's a clarity thing. Was it like higher levels of magnesium can potentially lead to better clarity, or the opposite? I know there's a mention of it. I wish I had a better memory so I could speak to that. Jason Glatz says, I've heard that magnesium is important for yeast health, but I've also brewed 4 or 5 generations of lager yeast without adding any and haven't had any issues. So, yeah. I think it's one of those things, like so many other things with brewing, where you want to do the most right that you possibly can, but if you start missing things here and there, it's maybe not a huge issue until you start missing like a lot of things. We're talking like, you want to sanitize everything, and you want to have a healthy yeast pitch, and you want to have enough, magnesium and oxygen and all those things. And the more things you can do to, add insurance to make sure you get a better brew, the better. But it's not to say that you can that if you miss one of those things, it's going to turn out bad or unhealthy or something.
No. But I mean, at the same time, like it's not a magic bullet, if you will.
Yeah.
If that's what you were getting at.
No, but using good water with the right profile will make a good beer into a better beer.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, 100%.
But yeah, as you said, it isn't a magic bullet, but it'll definitely, it'll step up your game a wee bit.
Yeah, and I found that actually venturing into water chemistry and feeling like I have a little bit more of a grasp on that, or at very least just the fact that I'm attempting it, I'm doing it, I have noticed an increase in the quality of my beers, which has allowed me to then try focusing on other things. So that, it's just one of those stepping stones that once you start getting it, start understanding it, at least doing it, playing around with it, you're going to notice a change in your beers once you start dialing that in. And I feel like the chemistry of it may not necessarily be entirely simple, but the effort that you put into it, like actually like doing it with the tools that are out there and available, I don't know. I feel like it's a very small step that you can take to actually have a pretty drastic increase in quality of your beer.
Matt Mead chimed in again. He says, John Palmer said it's like making a cake or baking. Water salts are just part of the ingredients, since water's such a large amount of what makes a beer and style. And I mean, it's super true, right? You can say like Czech beer, for instance, is known for very soft, almost not mineral-y at all water. And if you were to use like a West Coast IPA water profile and throw in like 150 parts per million gypsum and 75 calcium or something into that Czech, the bitterness would probably be far more prominent. It would have more like minerality. That's something I feel like I've become a lot more sensitive to. I posted a picture for anybody that's like friends with me. I might have put it on Facebook, but I didn't change my RO filters for like 2.5 years or something, maybe, in my RO water system. and my beers were getting notes back from competitions that they were minerally. And I started tasting that myself, and I'm like, you know what? I think I understand what this flavor is now. But why would it be like that? I'm using RO water. Except filters are only so effective for, so long, right?
Yep.
And I changed them out, and they were just like orange, sloppy messes. I don't even think they can be called filters anymore. And as soon as I changed those filters out, I feel like my beer um, became a lot more clean, and the salts that I'm using in my beer are actually doing what they're supposed to do. It makes a huge difference, especially if you're using like RO water, which so many people in the chat are. Um, I think like, yeah, we have at least like 3 or 4 comments of people using RO water.
So do you want to go through RO and what it means to build a water profile then?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't hit on bicarb,
Oh,
calcium.
sorry. Yes.
Well, I don't know if we need to. I mean, so calcium again is one of those things that I believe is important to yeast health, and I think it's important to like clarifying as well. Typically, as I understand it, the minimum you want to hit is about 50 parts per million.
Yep.
But after that, it's not super important. But it'll be like a taste thing after that, right? And sort
It
of
says 50 through 150 in the book.
50 to 150. Okay.
And it says fermentation, clarity, and mash pH.
Mash pH, obviously. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's something we didn't really mention about any of these, but it leads us into bicarb a little bit. Is that almost all of these, like the sulfate, the calcium, I don't know about the magnesium, but a lot of these drop the pH as you add them to the water, which is good.
Carbonate increases it.
Except for carbonate. I have a cat in my lap, and it's too warm in my office right now. Sorry, Dimitri. But we typically want to hit a mash pH of like 5.2 to 5.6 is like the common like homebrew, mantra or whatever. Yep. And water, like RO water, if it's just like what you have in that like perfect bottle of yours, David, it should be like 7, right? Is that like normal water pH?
Yeah. Neutral water is just pure H2O with nothing dissolved in it or anything. Definition is pH 7.
So malts are gonna drop pH a little bit. Darker malts tend to drop it a little bit faster. But if you're brewing something like a lager or something that just has all Pilsner malt, you're not necessarily going to get down there just with malt alone. Sometimes you need a little some of those salts, and sometimes even add a little bit of acid too, which we can talk about.
Yep.
But yeah, bicarb. Sometimes you do get the mash too low, and I think I'm looking at my notes here. What are the bicarb? Baking soda, chalk, pickling lime can all add bicarbonate. Chalk is one of those things where we should mention doesn't readily dissolve all that easily, so probably don't want to use it.
Then there's the thing that chalk only exists as carbonate, as when the pH is greater than 9 or 10, because before that, or between like 8 and 9 or 8 and 10 or whatever it is, it's mostly bicarbonate at that point.
Oh, okay.
So carbonate and bicarbonate are basically the same. It's the same, anion. Oh, cation.
So Matt Mead says mash or sparge pH are important. We were just talking about mash pH, and the 5.2 to 5.6 range, is so important because it's really the range that our enzymes are like most effective at. That's like one of the biggest things, but it also affects things like everything else we've talked about. It affects things like clarity, and tannin extraction is one that I think gets thrown around a lot. I don't think that that's necessarily so much of a function of the mash as it is. Matt mentions the sparge. So at the end of a sparge, like when you're sparging, the pH, as I understand it, tends to go up a little bit, which is why the term over sparging is a thing. If you throw too much sparge water through your mesh, you tend to raise the pH of it. And if it gets above like 6, that's when you can start extracting tannins, as I understand it. I have never tasted anything that I would call like over sparged or tannic. I don't really know what that tastes like, but that's sort of like the common like homebrew knowledge that's thrown around. Um,
The way
I'm
that
sure.
flavor is usually described, a lot of people describe it's like sucking on a tea bag.
Yeah,
I've never sucked on a tea
I
bag,
was
so I
gonna
don't
say
know.
I'm gonna have to make some tea tonight
you
now,
No,
should.
no, no.
it's
Apparently, it's strictly sucking on a tea bag.
Yeah, yeah,
I
same
don't
says.
know.
like, is it a used tea bag or is this fresh?
I haven't.
I would
I don't
wet it
ask.
down a little bit, and then stick it on your tongue. I've done this so I could experience what extreme. I wanted to say tenacity, but it's not the word I'm looking for. But extreme like
I mean, that would kind of work.
tanninicity, yeah, is like because I've over tanned meads before, and it's like sucking on wood chips. It's not good.
It doesn't sound bad, to be
Yeah,
honest. I might do that. And it's,
it'd be good for sipping in small amounts. Like I think there's like some bourbons and whiskeys that are like quite tannic
yeah, I
sometimes,
can understand that.
and
Yeah.
those can be okay. But yeah, but yeah, let's talk about building like a water profile. I think that's a great idea. Have you opened up any of your other waters though, David? Are you
I'm
still?
about to break open the uh, Gordon water.
The Gordon water. I'm interested about the pH purified because, to be honest, it sounds like they tried to get rid of pH. Like,
I want
purified
to.
of
I want to.
pH.
I want to hear what the 9-1 tastes like. The super
Yeah,
acid.
Yeah, that would be
I've
interesting.
always wanted to try it, but I'm just like it's going to be. To be honest, I think it's just going to be a gimmick, but
Do you have a pH meter with you? You should test it.
I do, but it's not calibrated.
Ah,
I've got strips. I could probably dip some strips in it.
try it. I
Yeah.
mean, those will be
Yep.
accurate within probably
Within
a half
half.
percentage. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
So this is Gordon's.
I'm drinking some
Actually
yellow
tastes-
water now.
Actually tastes better than my Brita water, which suggests to me that I need to change out the filter in my Brita.
is that just from from a drinking
Yeah.
like water
Yeah,
dispenser?
it's just from the
Basically?
drinking fountain. Yeah.
So, Jordan, you mentioned earlier that once you started playing with water, you felt like the quality of your beer increased quite a bit. And
Yeah.
I am going to be right there with you and say that I 100% agree. I think that moving to RO has had one of the most drastic differences in the quality of my beer of anything that I've done, with the exception of maybe like temperature control or something for my fermentation. But so there's tools to build these profiles, right? I guess
Yep.
maybe we start there.
Yep.
Because if you're gonna try to math it out yourself, you're probably in for a bad time. Let somebody else who's already done the work and presented it do it for you and utilize the tools. So what's out there? I know we talked about brew and water.
Yep. That's
somebody-
generally what I use.
I think somebody in chat had mentioned that they use
It's a Brewfather.
Brewfather, which is
Yeah.
just another like a
Beersmith.
yeah,
Beersmith
like-
has a really good one.
Beersmith has
what-
one.
What I like
Wait.
about the Beersmith one is that it's automatic. So it applies
Beersmith has
straight-
one? Really?
Yep. Yep.
I can stop using it. I haven't updated my Beersmith in a while. To be honest, I use it on my phone mostly. Is it on both mobile and the PC?
Don't know. I don't have it on. I think it's definitely on PC.
I
Okay.
don't know if they have it on mobile. It's definitely on Beersmith 3.
Yep.
I will say though that there are differences between, Brewfather, Beersmith, and Brew and Water in terms of the way that they calculate the uh, the
Additions.
yeah. Word
Words.
slipping me, and I
Words.
have only had 1.5 beers. Um, a lot of people have their one, just like brewing software, and they figure out how to make it work for them, and then they stick with it.
Yep.
So I say play around and try different tools until you find one that starts making beer that you think tastes the way that you want it to taste, and then go from there. It's sort of like IBUs. Like IBUs are there, and software calculates theoretical IBUs, but they're never ever like if you were to send in a beer and get it tested, it's never going to be anywhere close to what like the IBUs in your software say they are. But if you're brewing beer and you're hitting, you know, the calculated targets and it tastes right, then you can sort of, you know, just know that level works for your own brewing needs.
Yeah. And particularly with IBUs, I believe the common equations they use that are used to calculate IBUs, they were fine when people were making low hopped beers. But as soon as you start to go super hoppy, that linearity completely falls apart once you get above a certain IBU on it. So
that totally makes sense. Okay.
And I've had that in the past where I bought a I think it was Hop Slam or it was Hop Slam. I bought a Hop Slam kit from Bell's, and I pumped it into Beersmith, and it told me that the IBUs were 35. Right, this is Hop Slam. It ain't 35.
Nope.
And I went and spoke to the people in Bell's about it, and they were like, no, we got it tested, and the PA and the IBUs are like 70 something. Like, yeah, that makes more sense. And then I think I added 5 minutes onto every single one of my hop additions, and then suddenly my IB, because in that, if I remember correctly, in that Hop Slam kit, there's no bittering additions, or if it is, it's really minimal.
Oh wow, weird.
And I added 5 minutes to every single one of my hop additions, and then suddenly it was up in. I think it gave me a IBU of 68. So it doesn't take. It thinks that when you cool your beer, you suddenly go from 212 down to
immediately down to your firm temp.
Yeah, it doesn't take into account that it's going to take 5 minutes for you to get below the isomerization temperature.
Yep.
Anyway,
Jason in chat says he found Beersmith 2's pH calculations for acid additions to be way off compared to brew and water, which he says was money. I can't speak to Beersmith 3 though, and I don't think much changed with Beersmith 3. I don't know.
They just charge you more money for it, yeah.
Probably. I do use Beersmith 3, but I also use brew and water for my my water calculations, and I have always had like super great experiences using it. In fact, the brown ale for Big Brew Day that my team is going to brew, I have not made a water profile for it, so maybe we can make one right now, and we can kind of show how at least brew and water works.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let me try to share my screen. I'm rocking a 49-inch monitor right now. So.
Oh, you got that big boy.
I do.
Right.
I'll
corroborate Jason Glass's comment, because I believe I have Beersmith 2, and have played around in between Beersmith 2 and Brew and Water, and I feel like the amount that Beersmith was having me toss in to my water was like way higher than what Brew and Water was having me do. So I was like, oh, I'd rather, if I'm gonna err on the lower side than the higher side of a lot of these.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm totally with you.
Yeah, Beersmith seems to really like to get me to add gypsum.
Yeah, I think that was one of the big ones where I was just like, I'm gonna add a shit ton of gypsum. This
It's
shit's
always
gonna
like 2 or
be
3 grams. It's
fucking
always 2 or 3 grams of gypsum. It's like, what the fuck am I
yeah,
adding all this gypsum for?
yeah, exactly. Like I'm not.
I will say when you're using your scale, make sure that it's set to grams and not ounces.
Wow,
Don't ask me how I know. To check that.
that would be. It'd look like you'd be brewing in milk after you
It
added
was
that.
one of my first times like doing my water editions. I'm like, this is a lot. Like,
Yeah.
but okay. I didn't know any better.
But what I really do like with the Beersmith one is that if I say, right, here's my base profile of water, and then I want to have a London water profile, for example, I can literally just press kind of auto fit, and it'll say you need to add 7 point something grams of this and 3.14 grams of whatever, and it means that it's already there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a small part in a very big program, whereas Brew and Water is a spreadsheet that's
But you also kind of have to
fit for purpose, and also
in everything.
Yeah, Martin Brewgarten or whatever his name is
Yep.
is the he's
Genius.
pretty much the expert on this stuff.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
this is obviously going to be the right, the best tool. It's just there isn't that auto
that
fit.
convenience. Yeah, Brian,
Although
if you could like zoom in on that so that way we can see it a bit more.
Yeah, let's see if I can.
That use yeah, I was gonna say use the slider there.
Is that better?
Yep. Give us a little more. There we go. That works a little better. Yeah, we should be able to see it better there.
So we can just go through the spreadsheet real quick. The first couple tabs are just instructions on how to use the spreadsheet and some sort of base levels. Like if you have if you're not using RO, you can plug in your base levels of calcium, magnesium, sodium, bicarb, carbonate, sulfite, chloride, all that stuff in here, and it'll understand what your base levels are for calculating your additions. I start with RO, so pretty much everything that I have is set to 0 here. Sparge acidification too is again one of those things where you basically just kind of leave it alone. At least I've never changed it, but grain input basically is sort of where you start. So I have it zoomed in here. I'm gonna sorry about my clacking keyboard. I'm gonna start just typing in a couple things here. We're gonna do Golden Promise, and we're using Maris Otter and Pale Chocolate and Victory. This is excuse the amount of different malts we have in here. We're gonna make this thing super complex. I'm gonna call this white wheat. C40 and C80. So over here under grain type, you can select the type of grain it is, whether it's a base malt, wheat, oat, crystal, roast, and acid malt. This just kind of helps the software adjust the pH guesstimates a little bit, especially when you start typing in quantity and the color. I set this to EBC just because I keep that as EBC in Beersmith. EBC and Lovebond are just different scales for like color. So I'm using 5 pounds of Golden
EBC is
Promise.
basically twice Lovebond, pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
Yep. 1 pound, 8 ounces of pale chocolate. We're doing a pound of Victory, a pound of wheat, and then 8 ounces of C40, 8 ounces of C80. And then I'm going to type the EBC rating for each of these in here, which Beersmith gives me. I believe that Brewfather probably does too, or Lovebond rating. So this is like 5, 6. I'm just going to rough these. I'm not going to put in the exact decimals and stuff. 443. The Victory is about 50. The wheat is about 5. Then we're looking at about. Yep. So
you got 505 for Vic. Yeah.
Yeah, and so C40 would be about 40 Lovibond, but it's about 79 EBC. And then C80 would be about 70 Lovibond, but we're looking at about 157 EBC. So, like you said, David, about
It's
just
about
about
twice,
double.
yeah.
So then I click over on the water adjustment tab here. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit. Does that look okay?
Yeah, that looks all right. Yep.
Okay. I'm going to go back and name this. The name of the beer is going to be Let the Wookiee Win. So, if I scroll all the way to the left here, we can choose designated water profiles. There's a long list. And a lot of these are like locations and stuff. And you can also create your own custom water profiles for like New England IPAs and whatever else you want to make. For the majority of my beers, if you scroll down to the bottom, and I think that like Beersmith and stuff have these profiles as well. There's like yellow full, yellow balanced, yellow dry, amber full balanced dry, brown, black. And so for the purpose of this beer, I think I'm just going to do like a brown balanced since we're doing like an American brown ale. Once you choose that, it gives you a target for calcium, magnesium, sodium, sulfate that you want to hit based on the malts and stuff like that you have. In this case, it also gives you an estimated mash pH. So I'm gonna get like somewhat just a little bit of mini complicated here for a second, but let's first try to target. I usually just target the sulfate and chloride, and as long as calcium is above 50, I let it ride. So I kind of just start typing in numbers here until I'm about where I need to be. So about 1.7 total grams over here in the mash and 2.2 in the sparge will get me about 70 ppm sulfate. And then...
But you said that you're adding... Oh, sorry, that's grams per gallon. Okay, got it.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
No, you're good. And then about 1.15 and 1.44 for calcium chloride will get me those levels that I need to be, and it puts me at about 60 ppm calcium. But with these additional salts and all of the grain that I'm going to mash with, it drops my estimated pH down to about 4.6, which I don't want because I want to be closer to like 5.2. So there's really two ways to go about fixing that. The first and most obvious would be to add bicarbonate.
Yep.
If you do that, which you can, you'll start to need to drop down like the gypsum and calcium additions, because once you start adding bicarbonate, you'll probably be adding, sulfates and chlorides potentially otherwise.
Yeah. But, no. You're just adding the sodium and the carbonate.
But I still, for my personal preferences, I don't always want to add a bunch more sodium. My go-to for this is I will totally just delete out my higher like acidic like malts from here. So in this case, I'm just going to see what it looks like without the 1.5 pounds of pale chocolate. If I get rid of that, so if I don't mash with that right away, it puts my pH at about 5.37, which is great. I'm totally okay with that. So what I'm probably going to do for this beer is I'm going to mill up everything except the pale chocolate, and I'm going to leave that separately. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mash with everything for about 45 minutes. And with about 15 minutes left, I'm going to add that pale chocolate into the mash, because by then all the conversion is probably about done. The mash is happy, like all the conversions happen and stuff like that. I'll dump the chocolate in after that. It will drop the pH a little bit, but by that point in time, it's not going to matter a ton as far as conversion goes. It's just going to be sort of a color issue. And then after I sparge with, the remaining, well, I didn't adjust this, hold on. But after I sparge with the remaining water, for the most part, I've really never had a lot of issues doing it that way. In fact, that's what I did for that Modelo clone, and it seemed to work pretty good. Is that a reasonable way to do it?
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
No, I know a lot of people have, even fellas in the group in our club have had a lot of success with doing cold steeps. So I think they do a cold steep the night before or something with their dark malts, and because I know that Patrick, Matt, and Jeff, or I believe that Patrick, Matt, and Jeff will do that for their Irish stout that keeps winning. So that's that's a very common way of doing it. And also, when you do, when I first started, and we did the extract kits. With the extract kit, it was always add the extract to the brew kettle, boil it up, and then for the last 15 minutes, dump in the dark malts, and you can do a steep towards the end, the last 15 minutes of the boil. So there's really 3 different ways that you can add them that don't include mashing it.
Yep. And I think they're all pretty much just as effective. I think that the cold steep method lends even less roastiness than anything you can do when the water's hot. So I think it's, again, one of those things where, like, try it and do what makes the beer taste best,
Yep.
sort of. The color really extracts super quick, especially if you're sparging. It really doesn't require a whole lot of time to get that color out of the malt at all. So, a lot of different ways to do it.
And I can always bring my start. I've got my little drop-in bottle of iodine. So I can always bring that, and we can check that your conversion's done.
Do you want to talk about that real quick? So how does that work? What's the iodine test?
Iodine and starch forms so the starch basically kind of like grabs around the iodine ions, iodide, I guess. No, just be straight iodine. And then it forms this complex, which is a very deep blue, almost black color. So at the beginning of the mash, when there's a lot of starch in the solution before the enzymes are breaking down on it, if you put a couple of drops in, then the sample will appear really dark. If you wait for the enzymes to do their thing and break the starch, so the long carbohydrates that are in the malt, let them break them down to the maltose, the fermentable sugars. Those fermentable sugars, because they're not a long chain, they can't wrap around the iodine in solution, so you don't form that big complex. So the color change disappears, or rather, the color change doesn't form. So,
and that's how you tell that your conversion is basically done.
Yeah, it's a really simple way of telling you if there's starch remaining.
Easy peasy. So this is what, like, in beer, or in brew and water at least, a kind of finished water profile would look like. This is for like a 6.5 gallon batch, which is what I normally brew. Either 6.5 or 7. I tend to brew, chill, and then let the beer sit for like half an hour and let all the kind of crud drop to the bottom and rack mostly clear stuff to my fermenter. And so I brew a little bit of extra liquid just to have extra room for the gunk to drop out. So when I'm heating up my mash water in this profile, I would add a little over 2 grams of gypsum, a little under a gram and a half of calcium chloride to the water, swirl it around. No lactic acid because we're already at 5.4, which is like right in the middle of kind of where we'd want to be for a target pH. And then as I'm heating up my sparge water, I do the same thing, 2.2-ish grams and then 1.5-ish grams of gypsum and calcium chloride, respectively, to my 4.75 gallons of water. And really, that's it. I mean, it's not super complicated. It just requires getting to know the software a little bit. And you know, there's other features. There's a whole like water knowledge tab at the end. You can see in blue on the screen, stuff like that. But really, you can make a water profile in, you know, under a couple minutes, as long as you already have your recipe built out in your brewing software.
So what if you added, say, a couple of grams, or like a gram or so of baking soda into that?
Let's do it.
In B25.
Do you want the chocolate malt back in?
No, just do it this. Just see what it looks like.
So that's about a gram back in.
Yep. And you can see that it's elevated the pH to 5.5. Your sodium number is now at 16 instead of 27. Your bicarb is about half of what it could be. So, you know, you could add, if you really cared about the sodium and the bicarb for the mash.
And that's something I've never played with, and maybe I need to, because I don't think that I've really ever added extra sodium back to my beer. And sodium is, you know, flavor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so that would be interesting.
I'd really say
play with that a little bit more, maybe.
With like what you're hitting, like, so I try to usually hit like all the numbers as close as possible. So like, looks like you could probably add in some, you know, a little bit of canning salt, which would boost. Well, no, that's going to give you chloride. I was looking at bicarbonate, so we already did baking soda.
Yeah, but you could double the baking soda, and then that would get you.
Yeah.
Close to, you know, there you're at. Yeah.
Yep.
30 instead of your. Yeah, you're at 29, and it said 27. Your bicarbs, it's at 60 instead of 90.
You could add in like a tenth of a gram of Epsom salt, and that would boost up your your sulfate.
But now the mash pH is getting high.
Yeah.
So if you threw the chocolate back in, the mash pH might be in the right.
Couldn't you just adjust that with I was gonna say, or you threw that chocolate back in, or adjust with lactic acid?
We're still pretty low with the chocolate.
Yeah, and now now the pH is too low, so now you'd have to add in even more carbonate.
A little lactic, probably at that point.
Yep. So that's about as close. That about generally what I would do with mine, except I would toss in probably some Epsom salt to get that magnesium up. Possibly lower the gypsum a little bit to keep the sulfates down.
I would, I should probably try doing that one of these days. I've just been a sulfate and chloride brewer for years and years. But
I mean, to be entirely honest, you've got more pretty things hanging on your wall than I do. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Like,
well,
no need to change.
I want to taste some sodium in my beer now. Like,
I actually went to was it at Grand Rapids? Or it might have been at Baltimore, but it was one of the National Homebrew Con presentations, and somebody gave a 50-minute or 45-minute presentation about water chemistry. And this guy was a chemistry professor. So I was sitting there just lapping it up, and most of it was like over the heads of everybody else. But I was just like, oh no, I could listen to this guy talk about this shit for hours. And after he gave this presentation saying about why this iron is super important and how to do this and he literally just finished the presentation and just went, to be honest, just throw in about 10 grams of calcium salts, and you're probably going to be good for most beers. And I was just like, well, okay, yeah. So it took him a long time to get there, but that was obviously just a kind of like just a generalization, which looking at Brian's first editions here, he literally he's throwing in 2, 5, and about another. You're throwing in about 8 grams of calcium salts. So, and I think that's basically what he said. He's about 8 to 10 grams, and you're probably going to be good.
I'll be totally honest. I feel like the more I brew, the more I go by like gut feelings instead of like spreadsheets and facts and stuff like that, and it just becomes sort of like a less science and more like art.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, like you've got a process that works out well for you. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'd say that to just about any brewer. Like if you're happy with what you're doing,
100%.
it's good. It's good to try to experiment with ways to make yourself better, but always keep that happy spot available. If it's not broke, don't fix it, kind of thing.
There's not a single person I know that brews the exact same way with the exact same, ways of creating their water profile and things like that. And
it's kind of the beauty of brewing, though. It's all so personal.
Yep.
Cat, come here.
But
go ahead, David.
As I say, for what I do a lot with my beers is that I have just a regular under the sink water filter that I've just got some hose connections on it, and I use RV hoses, so I won't get that hose flavor, and I'll just run it through that to give me, it's not going to be anywhere close to RO grade, but that's usually what I use. So if I'm doing something like a pale ale or a brown ale or something like that, I'll use that. If I'm doing something where the water profile needs to be a little bit a little bit more subtle, as Brian mentioned earlier, with a Czech, or with a lot of the kind of German pils, or the German lager styles that typically are going to be a lot lower in ions than other beers. I might take my my RV filter water and cut it 50-50 with RO.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's got to that point where I dove into the water chemistry pretty hard when I first started learning about it, and then just as Brian said, you kind of it's something that you need to be aware of, but and as you said, Jordan, if you're doing it right, don't worry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Brian, I know you took that off, but anyway, you could bring that back up real quick. I guess just as to like demonstrate a quick point on like the differences of our worldly styles. I'd say if you could take that, so we have that brown balance profile right now. So like I say, somebody was, they've built this out, and now all of a sudden they want to make like a Vienna lager or something. So let's change that desired water profile over to like say Munich or something like that, and see how it changes.
Very, very soft.
Yes, and that's kind of,
or is it hard? There's a lot of bicarb.
I would say that bicarb is huge in this one. But I mean, that kind of goes to show, like, I guess in one small aspect, or one very quick example on the importance of your water chemistry. Like if you're trying to target a style or trying to make a clone of like, something you had in Europe or something like that, like targeting that water profile or getting as close to you can to that is really, really going to help you out, rather than just being like, I'm going to take the stuff out of my sink and, try to make a Dortmunder or something like that. Like you're going to want a profile from overseas.
You move that the Pilsen profile, which I think is more for like Czech and it's basically nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, look at that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you throw like a minimal amount of chalk in it, and it'll give you
just
your.
Yep.
sneeze some like calcium chloride or something in it, and call it a day. Yeah.
Well, because your chloride's still super low, so it's really only it's probably mostly going to be chalk you're throwing into it. Just a wee bit of limestone, you know.
But I guess this was one thing that got me into really paying attention to water chemistry. Not only was it like the IPAs and the my house brews that I make, I felt like their quality increased, but it kind of gave me I felt like some of these European styles were more within reach, more within grasp to be able to actually make a semi resemblance of a clone. Because it's like, oh, we have their water profile. We can get close to it. We can get close. So it's a small step, but gives you a lot of different like leeway for adventure.
Yeah. So if you if you drop in instead of Pilsen, if you can get if there's like a London or a Dublin.
We're looking for profiles.
Yeah.
London.
There you go. So here you can see that the bicarb is the bicarb's actually quite low. It's actually a lot lower than it was for
the Munich. Yeah.
Munich.
It's almost half the Munich.
That's actually quite a subtle one then. Because I thought the London profile was quite mineral heavy. Obviously there's a fair bit of calcium in there.
So here's a question. Oh, go ahead.
Like some of these are sort of theoretical too, a little bit. Like if you look at the Burton profile, the Burton on Trent, like nobody's fucking brewing beer with this profile. Like
that's insane.
They are not making beer. Like they're doing something to their beer probably.
Well,
where it doesn't have
that level of sulfite will kill you. Well, that level of sulfate is probably poisonous.
Yeah, like it's just not. It's not going to taste good.
And
if it doesn't kill you.
I believe as well that even historically, with the water the Burton is the classic British IPA water profile. That's where a lot of those IPAs first came from for the British style IPAs. I believe they boil their water with, and this like historically, so for hundreds of years, they've been hitting the water with the pickling lime. So I think they boil the water with the pickling lime. That drops a load of the calcium salt out of solution. So which will bring that sulfate down into something that's a lot more.
That's exactly what I was going to ask here, because in the number of these profiles on here, they actually, at least in the version that I have, they actually have like London, and it'll be London boiled. So like if you pull that drop down, I don't know if they have Burton for boiled.
There's no Burton boiled, but there is a London and a London boiled.
Yeah.
Well, and boiling, well, we all know. You take just take water out your tap in the kitchen and boil it, and tell me what you see in your saucepan afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
There's the scale forms on it, and that's because you're dropping the calcium out and it forms this really. If you look at the chemical formula for it, it's like calcium 12 or 20 something, and then there's so many hydroxyls in it, and it has a name. It's something like solemite or something. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, okay.
But
something like that sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, but it literally that's what drops out. So I think that's what they do with a lot of their with a lot of those very high mineral ones.
I was wondering what that meant. Okay.
I believe.
Well, no, it makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know what I thought that the boiled profiles meant, but yeah, literally just boiled.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, I was about to say something there about London water, but I'll shut up because
No,
I would have been wrong. Well, because I thought, for example, that's why a lot of the beers that were brewed in London would have been things like porters and stouts, was because the water was so hard, and it isn't. So I guess I did just say it anyway.
You did. Matt joined us. I don't know if he's still here, but how's it going, Matt? Matt Ushman just got an RO filter. Congratulations, sir. I love my RO system too. I gotcha. He says, don't mean to change the topic, but notice something odd with my lager. It's been using Weist 20077 Pilsen lager. Notice some crazy lag time between when I pitch and when the fermentation starts. And he's wondering if anybody sees similar results when using the strain. I don't know that exact strain, but I'm going to look up the yeast. There's like a spreadsheet on the Google Sheet somewhere called like Yeast Master. And I'm going to see if that's similar to something else that I do use. 2007.
I don't like pH 9 water.
No?
So
No.
that is the White Labs Cry Havoc strain? Or something by... so it's... I don't know. It's not a strain that I've used. Yeah.
Cry Havoc, isn't that the one that could be used for both lagers and ales?
Let me look it up, Matt. I don't know. Cry Havoc. Yeast. Charlie Fist Bump Lager. What is this? What am I looking at? Well, licensed. Oh, so this is like a Charlie Papazian strain, apparently.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So this is like an OG like yeast. No, I can't say that I have, dude. Let's see here. So the very first comment I'm looking at, but it's from like fucking 10 years ago. It says first time I used it, I made a starter, fermented at 70 degrees, and the beer was done in 3 days. So yeah. Jason says that was Papazian strain. Yep, that's what I'm seeing too. Yeah, I don't know. Matt. Are you making a lager? Or, are you making a starter? I'm reading comments to see if anybody else, just on this White Labs post, has seen anything.
Yeah. Strain can ferment at both ale and lager temperatures.
Okay. So I wonder too, I mean, I feel like that's the case with a lot of these lager strains lately. The most common lately being 3470. There's a lot of pro breweries that are using 3470 as their house yeast for like everything, like not only their lagers but like their IPAs and stuff like that too. And it's like it's a super solid, clean yeast. Like I feel like it's even more versatile than USO5. It says no starter, just typically been pitching it. Straight pitching. Yeah, super slow to start. Are these like have you been straight pitching this yeast at like lower temps? Like are you doing like 50 degree like ferments like straight pitching without a starter, or are you trying to brew like ales like 68F like ales or something with them? Because yeah, I mean 5 days is long even for like a straight pitch of time. Like
yeah, that sounds like the yeast is expired.
Matt, I think that might be it a little bit. Like I think a straight pitch at like a low temp like that is you're probably
asking for trouble.
I mean, for sure that's probably why the lag time is so long. Because like the common like homebrew or whatever like pitch rate is you're looking for something like 400 billion cells, and I think that that a straight pitch for Y yeast now is like maybe 150, and that's brand new fresh. Like even at a month old, you start losing. I think it's like 20% viability a month, like month after month. So I mean, even if it's a month old, you're at like a quarter of the yeast cells you probably want to be at. So yeah, I would say a starter. You'll probably
Yep.
have like a day lag time, and then you'd be good.
Because anything with a 5-day lag time, I'd really be concerned about. Because the reason you really want the yeast to start taking off quickly is that if there is anything else in your wort,
Yeah, you want that to
then
take over.
yeah, you want the yeast to start doing everything they can, and it means that any PDO or lacto that might be in there isn't going to take hold. 5 days with no airlock activity would have me concerned.
Very, very worried. Yes. Yeah.
It
At the
might
end,
it might just be that perhaps your the lid of the fermenter's not on properly, so perhaps you do have activity. You're not seeing any airlock activity because it's just gonna it's the CO2 is going to seep out in another way. So I would recommend taking a gravity reading to see if the gravity's changed. If the gravity hasn't changed, then yeah, nothing's happened and you need to repitch.
Tilt, man. Get yourself a tilt.
Yeah, but that's $150 fix.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Or build
I
one.
don't want to say best investment I've ever made, but dang, I really love my tilts. I didn't think I would like my tilt so much until like I got one for my birthday from my mom. Like she bought me my first tilt, not even knowing anything about like homebrew stuff. Just saw that it was like a toy. She went out and did a ton of research on like things that homebrewers were like using, and bought me one like without me even knowing, and which was one super cool, but two, I learned to love the thing because I'm pretty sure up until I got my tilt and started using it, I'm very impatient. I am super impatient, and I've had to learn patience with this hobby. Okay.
Yes.
I'm patient in general. I'm impatient with this hobby, and I've had to learn patience with this hobby. Kind of after I got this tilt, because I'm pretty sure I was kegging beers early. Not too early, but like it could have had a point or two to go, like back in the day, just because I was like, all right, I need to get this in the keg for Keepers of Craft meeting in 3 days or something, and it's helped me learn patience for sure.
Yep. Yeah, because once you start getting a number of days where that you see that line that's kind of flat on that bar graph, you're like, okay,
Yeah,
this thing's done.
I'm wondering if my coil will cause issues. I have SS BrewTech brew buckets that have coils, and they're pretty narrow, and I don't have any issues. I do try to keep it in the middle of the coil, and I think that the temperature reading sometimes isn't like 100% on. Like it might be more cool in the middle of the coil than the actual entirety of the ferment is, but for the most part, yeah, Unitank, yeah, totally. Same coil then, and fits right in the middle. It'll be fine. Yep. Yeah. Oh, sorry to go off topic, but that's kind of what we do. No, I mean we're pretty much wrapping up talking about water anyway, right?
I mean, there's not really an awful lot,
We're still sharing the spreadsheet, probably.
But the Kalamazoo water is really hard. The carbonate levels we've got here, I think they're like 300 and something, if I remember correctly.
And Bell's does brew with it, but they do something to it. I don't remember what. I know we've gone on tours there, and they've said that they do use Kalamazoo water and adjust it somehow. But
they do a lot of filtration, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah. I thought that's what it was.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain for some of those first brews that we did at One Well, I'm pretty certain that's what Chris said, is that they just run everything through pretty much like now he probably has a better system, but I think when they first started, it was pretty much just a regular under the sink type filter. So that must remove some of the.
Did I say Bells or One Well? I meant Bells, but I probably said One Well.
No, you said Bells.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
But
same then probably.
Yeah. But the water here is really quite hard, so the stouts and porters, and even some IPAs, you'll get some really good. Nobody's making a pilsner with straight Kalamazoo water.
Yeah.
No.
Or if they do, they're not making a very good pilsner.
Yeah. I mean, you can try.
Yes. They would make a much better pilsner if they watered down
Kalamazoo
water with RO.
That might be doing that, but we're not gonna name and shame on stream. Yeah.
The kind of TLDR is that water.
Yeah.
Water is important because it's so it's so much of the composition of your beer.
Yeah, it's the foundation that you build your beer on.
Yeah.
The old adage is if it tastes good, like you can brew with it. I don't think that that's necessarily true. One, because some people aren't super sensitive to the taste of chlorine, and the chlorine flavor itself won't necessarily flow into the beer, but might actually form like a Band-Aid flavor, which we talked about at the beginning of the episode. We didn't talk about how to get rid of that, which we should mention really quick too.
Yep.
Is that chlorine and chloramine reacts with Campton or potassium metabisulfite, yeah, and or sodium metabisulfite. I think you can find it either or.
I think Camden's KMS, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's the sodium or the calcium or the potassium. That's not what's important. It's the metabisulfite that knocks out the chlorine.
Potassium is just more flavor neutral.
Yep.
But it's an instant chemical reaction. 5 minutes is more than enough time. Swirl it around your water. All your chloramine is gone.
And it's basically one tablet for 20 gallons.
Yeah. Yep. And
like it's
really for that much. Wow.
Yeah. So
prep your water ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, you can even do it on brew day. I mean, it's so fast to happen. It doesn't take much.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, unless you're doing 20-gallon batches, you got to, unless you want to cut the tablet into quarters or something, but or I guess you're probably using close to 10 gallons to make a 5-gallon batch anyways. So.
Yeah, doesn't take much, but don't judge the quality of your beer just based on how good your water tastes. I don't want to be like the guy that's like, use RO water and make the best beer, but I swear that if you start using RO water, you will probably find a drastic improvement in the quality of your beer.
Yes.
Yeah. I would actually say, I would wager, like, if you are somebody who's just using off the tap, use some RO water. Don't do any water chemistry. Just brew your beer with an RO water and taste the difference. And then do it again after doing your water chemistry. So that way you can kind of get where you were and then the blank slate of what it is and then what the water chemistry does to it. And that's kind of, at least for me, would give, trigger my brain to think on like, oh, how much of an effect does it actually have?
So when you say about brew with RO, you talking straight RO or RO with a little bit of brewing salts added to it?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
to be honest, I mean, try using the software, but if you have the equipment or the desire to even try like a Czech. I know
Or
people
do
that
that,
have
yeah.
brewed very, very good Czech lagers with no additions whatsoever, zero mineral additions. Very, very good Czech beer. Um, so it's not to say that it's again the way to do it, but it's something to experiment with. That's the hobby. That's the fun of it. People make their own fun in their own ways. I compete a lot. I know a lot of people that experiment a lot with like adjuncts and like lavender and cinnamon. Jordan, cinnamon. You didn't you took almost best of show like a couple of years ago with like a cinnamon like stout.
Yeah, yeah.
At,
Are you talking about bells?
yeah. Oh God, yeah.
No, yeah, that was a cinnamon Schwartz beer, and then yeah,
Schwarzbier, yeah.
I've taken one with a cinnamon beer. I know way more about cinnamon than I probably should.
I will probably be hitting you up later then, because we're doing a cinnamon beer for our for our
Yeah,
for our,
feel free
for
to
our Star
ask.
Wars
Yeah.
for our Star Wars Big Brew.
I believe I'd have to look at my medals. I haven't packed away right now, but I believe I took a medal at Glint Cap with a cinnamon cider as well.
Right, that was pH 9. I didn't like pH 9.
Oh no. So what did pH 9 taste like? Yeah. We don't have to go yet. I wanna hear like what all these waters taste like. I'm fine to bullshit for a little bit here.
pH
Yeah,
9 was it's going to sound like synesthesia kind of thing, but it's like it tasted.
Did it taste like
It was
brown? Like
yeah. It was there was a flavor on it that it tasted. It didn't taste like water.
okay. Yeah.
And it
that's
was
unsettling.
And to me, the mouthfeel was different,
Mm-hmm.
and tasted water with a weird mouthfeel. I didn't like it.
No. Water's supposed to be refreshing, not like
Yes. So this is
that tastes like a color.
perfectly balanced pH purified water. So it's approximately 7.4, which I believe is the pH of blood.
You didn't take a pH rating at that 9, did you? See if it actually was
No,
9.
I do actually have a little bit left at the bottom. Hang on, do I have my pH? Oh, I've got too much shit on the top. I've got too much shit on the top of my kegerator.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
If I try to get my pH strips out, yeah, they're gonna go. Everything's gonna go clattering.
While you drink that, and I think David, you probably tasted this at Beer Cup last year, maybe, hopefully. But there was a cider that had that tasted mousy, which
I
is
do remember the mousy.
yeah, it's an off flavor that I can't remember the chemical that can occur in cider, but the description is mousy. I only know what it tasted like because somebody brought it up to us at Glint Cap which I helped steward last year, and they were like, "You guys want to taste what mousy all flavor tastes like?" And I tasted it, and we tasted it again at Beer Cup last year. But it tastes to me like TV static is the only way I can describe
That doesn't help me, Brian. I don't.
It just.
But the thing is, he's right. It does. it sounds wrong, but
like you taste it, and it almost doesn't have a taste. It's a lot of a mouthfeel thing too.
Why is it called mousy? Like I'm thinking like it tastes like you're licking hay, or like
it's like a rodent nest sort of.
Yeah. I was gonna say like dirt and fleas. Like that's
it's unpleasant, but it's crackly and like it's not super carbonated, but the way it feels in your mouth makes you want to say it's carbonated. It's Jason, you're thinking a THP, I think, which is in beer and sour beer, it's like mouse taint. It's like it's a different.
Now we're
chemical.
talking. That's a
Yeah,
different show.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
a different show.
Michigan Brews After Hours. So THP is like mouse taint in sour beer, but there's also something that's described as mousy in cider. That's a different chemical. But yeah, that one, Jason, is like Captain Crunch or Cheerios. But mousy in cider is like, I think it's a wine thing too. It's just, it's not just like, oh yeah, this probably shouldn't be here. It's like, bleh.
And interesting.
What'd you just open, David?
There, I'm on the 7.4 now.
What's the take? What's the analysis?
I'm happy on the 7.4.
All right.
It probably tastes more like the Gordons. So I'm wondering if the Gordons do anything to theirs. But it tastes, it's core hydration. But I'm digging it. It's also the most sober I've ever been on one of these shows.
It's not a bad thing for a Monday night.
Yeah, Portage Water is 7.4. Oh, we also, going back to a question that you had earlier, Jordan, within the club we have a water testing kit.
Oh,
So
that's
you
right.
Can test,
we do.
You can test your water.
I might have to snag that so I can figure it out.
I know Ted had it. I think somebody else took it a couple of months back. I'll have to find it. But
I'll make it to a meeting and ask.
Yeah, that's actually kind of fun to do those tests, because you have to take a sample of your water, and you end up putting drops of various different reagents in it, and then one of them will give you. I think with one of them it drops out the calcium out of solution. So then you basically look to see how cloudy it is, and that'll give your calcium to within like 5 or 10 ppm or whatever it is. And then there's other ones where you keep adding it until you get you add it drop by drop until you get a color change, and you have to sit there and count the drops. So you need to be in a quiet environment. So keep the kids the kids away, because you're going to be counting like 1 drop, 2 drop.
Never mind, drops. That's off. I don't have a quiet environment in this household anymore. That's no, but really, I'll probably make it out to a meeting and hit them up, because I've always been curious about the water at my house. I have a feeling it's super fucking hard. I mean, just the amount of iron that I have in my water, like that in and of itself, I'm pretty sure it's bad.
Do you have a water softener?
Yeah, but I don't think like any of my outside hoses, well, obviously don't run through the water softener, but like my inside stuff does. So I'd be interested in. And then I also have an RO system. So I'd be curious to see how that's doing, because we've replaced our filters once or twice on that. And like Brian, like you said, like we replaced our filters once, and it looked like I was trying to, rub baseballs in brown mud when I was pulling those things out. It was gross. Disgusting.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah. So I'd love to like be able to test all three and see exactly, where everything's at. I mean, the RO ideally should be pretty much null, but I'm not exactly sure on that.
Yeah, the RO, it reduces as much of it as it can.
Yeah,
that's why you end up with that like gurgling afterwards, because it's literally passing it across a membrane filter.
Well, another thing we didn't really even talk about tonight was like TDS in water, like total dissolved solids. And TDS meters are cheap. Like you don't even have to like you can get cheap pH meters and they're like okay.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Right. But like TDS meters, I mean, are kind of nothing. Like they don't detect specific things. They just detect like random
Total
shit
dissolved
or whatever.
solids, yeah.
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 And so you can get one off of Amazon for like $10, and it works fine enough. Um, my TDS, I think, without a water softener of my water right out of the faucet is something like 450. And after I take a sample of my RO water, I think it drops it down to about like 8 to 10.
Fucking hell.
So
Yeah, that's good.
it makes a huge difference. I tend to drop like a little bit of Campton in my water anyway. Just it's one of those things that we talked about earlier. Just it's an insurance. My RO system should strip all that stuff out probably anyway, but it almost costs nothing at the end of the day, right?
Yeah,
And
Campton
like
tablets are cheap.
Campton's cheap.
Doesn't Camden also, doesn't it interfere with like wild yeast as well?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that it sounds too good to be true. It's like, what is this magical, what is this magical thing? How does it do everything I want?
I mean, you're gonna boil it anyway.
Yep.
But if you're gonna let it maybe sit for a little bit, then 100%. Like when yeah, Matt Mead says sulfite. Yeah, when I transfer like beer or mead, like I'll also usually add a little bit of a sorbate to the thing that I transfer.
Sorbate, is it sorbate? No, sorbate kills.
It's like
Kills yeast,
it's like an it's like an oxygen absorber, right?
Is that the potassium sorbate?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Just like like I hardly even ever measure it. It's just like the tiniest little bit, and you swirl it in, and it sort of helps. It's another little bit of insurance to help make sure like oxygen doesn't. Am I wrong, Matt Mead?
Yeah, say potassium sorbates. That's what I use to stabilize my ciders.
Right, but okay, I think I am wrong. Maybe it is. It is metabisulfite. It is Campton. Campton is the oxygen scavenger.
I believe so.
Okay.
I think that would make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It is potassium sulfite.
Potassium.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it just does everything.
Oh, it's potassium sorbate. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorbate. Yeah.
I mean, I use both when I'm trying to stabilize, but yeah, sulfite's the antioxidant.
I was wrong. That was me.
Sulfate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sulfate, sorbate is what I was.
Sulfite to sulfate, probably.
Yeah. But I think we hit most of the water things. What do you have left? Yeah, man.
That's what I'm looking at there. I've got sparkling, I've got spring, and then I've got Dasani.
What's your what's the brand of your sparkling?
Whatever they had at the store. Saratoga sparkling since 1872.
Is it a can or a bottle?
Bottle.
You can add bottled sparkling water. Oh, I guess that makes sense because
Perrier
hold like 120
Perrier sparkling water,
like psi worth of pressure. Yeah.
I don't say that's another thing. Like if you get into this water chemistry and you like making carbonated water at home, like you can also start trying to clone like your favorite type of carbonated water with the different types of salts that you're putting into it. So just an added little benefit off to the side.
I have a Topo Chico water profile, and I took all the salts to make it, and I mixed it together into like a 50 milliliter container or something that I cap off, and I figured out that roughly 1 teaspoon of the powder mixture in 5 gallons of water is about the Topo Chico water profile that I want. I keep carbonated water on tap in my office. I have a kegerator like right behind me, so I can drink like carbonated water whenever I want, and it
I need to
is
do that.
delicious. It's so good. I call it yummy water powder. I will give you the recipe if you want it, or the profile. I made a jar for my buddy Russ, who bought a kegerator specifically so he could have carbonated water on tap, like just so he wasn't paying for the what's the system where you like plug the bottle up into the
the Airstream or
SodaStream.
SodaStream. That's Airstream's the camper. That's wrong industry.
Matt Mead says Topo Chico share it. I'll share it. I'll put it on the Michigan.
Yeah. Let me know, because I'm probably going to be following Russ's route and building a kegerator to keep carbonated water on tap in our kitchen.
It's super tasty. I do about a gallon of RO, dump in a teaspoon of this mixture, shake the shit out of it for like 2 minutes just to make sure it all gets shaken up, and then pour the rest of the 4 gallons of water in and carbonate it, and it's super tasty. I sometimes drink it by itself, but often I also use like Crystal Light like flavoring.
Yeah.
Like liquid in it too, but it's really good by itself. I tried to put lime in it once, like lime juice, and I used too much. I would not recommend that, but maybe dosing it cup by cup. What were you saying, David?
Dasani, purified water, magnesium sulfate, so Epsom salts, potassium chloride, and salt.
So this is flavored water, then?
Well, it's those. It actually says minerals added for taste, and it's those 3 minerals. So it's adding magnesium, chloride from the potassium chloride and the sodium chloride, sulfate, potassium, and sodium.
Dasani gets a lot of shit. I know a lot of people that don't like Dasani, and I personally really like it. So I'm interested in this tasting right now. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't like it.
There's that water.
Exactly.
I think I prefer the core. So the pH 7.2 one. But no, it's nice and clean. It's got it's a obviously the magnesium sulfate's doing a fair bit of work here.
Nice.
I got to applaud you for not having to run to the bathroom yet. That's
I'm going to.
You are so hydrated.
Are you drinking all that, or are you like dumping the water?
No. So far I've had. This is 20 fluid ounces.
Oh my god.
This is 23.9 fluid ounces. Just call it 24. That's not even a.
Is it like a liter?
No, it's 707 mils.
What the?
Right. Okay. That's annoyed me now. So okay. Now I'm less happy about the pH controlled one. This is 16.9 fluid ounces, 1.05. Okay, that's 500 mils. So I'll accept that one.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking at that's a pint. That's a pint and a quarter.
Like on the weird bottles. That must be it.
That's another pint and a quarter. Oh no, pint and a half. So yeah, I'm on about 5 pints of water at the moment. Actually, no.
Dude.
Shit, no, more like about 8 pints of water.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to be fun when it happens.
What he's not showing you is that he has all these empty bottles now, and so it's
not on
stream. Yeah, it's just crack one open and let it go.
You can find that on our other stream, Only Brews.
Don't stop saying stream. Jason
says 0.1 ounces over millions of bottles sold adds up to some CEO bonus. Yeah, you're the only one that's actually going to be peeing clear tonight.
Oh no, I'm going to drink a shitload of whiskey after this. So.
Oh, there you go.
Jordan, did you download Helldivers 2 yet?
I have not. I have not bought it.
Bought it.
Bought. Yeah. I have not.
Like what was that word I was trying to come up with earlier?
Oh, what was that? Tenacity. Which is a word, but you were using it a different way.
Tonicity.
Yeah.
Tanicity. That could be. Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Tanicality.
Yeah. I'll propose this to the masses later. Well,
there you go.
Yeah.
Hit up Webster.
Is that your last one, David?
I got 2 more. Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I got the carbonated and then the spring water.
Dimitri is. This is Dimitri.
Kitty.
Oh, Dimitri.
He keeps hanging out in my lap tonight, even though it's fucking like 70 degrees in my office. We're actually watching Jason's cats while he's out of town this week. So I think Dimitri's a little jealous. We're doing 2-a-days over there because one of their cats needs some meds, and maybe he smells other cat on me. He's not leaving me alone. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I've been swapping out to Lagunitas and Two Hearted tonight. I have been buying a lot of Lagunitas IPA lately. It is really solid. I have not been super happy with Two Hearted out of cans and bottles lately. I don't know why. It doesn't taste as fresh as it used to, which is unfortunate. Surprisingly, at the bowling alley we go to, it tastes pretty good still, but I don't know.
Oh, when
package just, you would think in Kalamazoo you'd get the freshest Two Hearted that there is, and maybe I need to go to the general store to buy it, but it's just not quite as good as it used to be. And maybe it's in my head. Maybe it's the sellout or something. I don't know, but
yeah, every time I go to the cinema now, I get they've got Humalupalicious on tap, so I'm just drinking that. So much so
I haven't had that in a while.
I have not had that in a long time.
I went to the cinema yesterday. I walked up to the beer line, and the guy just went, tall Huma. Like, yeah, that's me. And then I went for a second beer halfway through the movie, and somebody else was serving, and he did the same. Tall Huma. Like, well, okay.
Yeah, all right.
It's not just you. Yeah,
I've been here a few times. I can see.
Well, we've got the movie tickets where for $24 a month we can watch three movies a week.
Oh yeah. I met up with you during the chili cook-off, and you were on your way to go do that. Yeah.
So I've seen basically pretty much every movie that's come out this year, apart from the Bob Marley one. I haven't seen the Bob Marley one.
All right. Well, outside of that, I guess we're tangenting here. What's your top one? Like the top movie you've seen, and then the one that has surprised you the most?
All of Us Strangers. So that movie that I went to watch when I saw you.
Yeah.
That movie fucking ruined me. It absolutely destroyed me. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite movie of the year. Least favorite movie, probably still Aquaman 2.
Oh no.
But I'm more of a Marvel guy, so that's probably why I don't care about Aquaman, but I did go and see that.
I think Matt is too, if he's still watching. I think he's.
And then one of the ones that surprised me the most was the Wim Wenders movie called Perfect Days, and it's literally about a old Japanese guy who just goes around Tokyo cleaning toilets. And it's just lovely. It's just this guy. He just really likes his job, and he goes about, and it's just you literally just follow this guy potting about, cleaning toilets, meeting people, going for a beer at the end of the day, and nothing happens, but it's so charming. And it's just like, why do I love this movie so much?
How long was it?
That's great.
It was over 90 minutes. I don't think it was fully 2 hours.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just lovely. And it was like, oh, it was just, the guy, the character was just so kind and just always walked around with a smile. So the exact opposite of me, basically. But
Sorry, it took me a second. Stop that. You've smiled more this show than you would like to admit.
Yep. Or perhaps you just
Oh.
got to go for a wee. I know.
Yeah, Matt Mead said Godzilla 0 was awesome. I've heard that was really good.
Yes. Yeah.
I've wanted to see
Really?
that.
Yeah, Godzilla minus 0 was phenomenal.
Huh.
Because it was more about the, obviously there was a lot of Godzilla action, and the Godzilla action in it was amazing. But it was the story was more about the people, and it was set right after the end of the Second World War. So obviously it was the shame and everything of what Japan did during the Second World War. So it was just that, it was more about that, but then Godzilla doing some shit in the background. But really good, much better than Godzilla vs. Kong.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard that, and like the Godzilla minus 0 or whatever. I read a lot of reviews on it or saw a lot of reactions, and it kind of put it on my map. So
Yep.
love Godzilla movies overall. I mean, who doesn't like a giant monster? But they said this one was pretty different, and you kind of confirmed that. So I'm like, oh, I'd totally get down on watching it.
Matt says we don't talk about Godzilla versus Kong. I don't think I've watched it.
I watched the first one the other day, and then I watched the second Godzilla Kong, the New Empire, or whatever it was called, which was slightly less idiotic than the first Kong movie. Joanne's not talking to me at the moment because we went to watch Boy Kills World the other night, and it was so dumb. I think she was angry after the movie.
What is that about?
It's a revenge movie. Guy goes around and kills a bunch of people. That wasn't really a story. It was
like
somebody killed his.
This dog didn't even die first, or
no? Somebody killed his family, and he decided, right, that's it. I'm going to kill you, and it's just a.
I mean, that's just John Wick.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that was kind of a shot at John Wick. Like, yeah.
Yep.
But at least John Wick had like some backstory, right? Just
a little bit.
There was some silly plot twists that didn't need to be there.
Fair.
One of them was telegraphed pretty much from the first 2 minutes of the movie, so like, okay. But yes, we have definitely got off topic from water now, haven't we?
No, it's fine. I mean, the reality is that I can edit out like whatever for the podcast bit. It's fine. I've always said that this show is for us, and if people tend to join in and listen, then that's awesome. We really appreciate it. I hope they have as much fun as we have, but we don't do any like advertising. We don't have any ads. We pay hundreds of dollars a year for StreamYard and whatever else we do, stickers and other bullshit. It's just, this is another part of the hobby for us. So yeah, this is our entertainment, and people just happen to be able to indulge with us.
All right, sparkling water now then.
Does the label say anything about it having anything else in it, or is it just like RO with carbon dioxide?
It just says spring water and carbon dioxide.
Perfect. So Jason's not here to toot my horn this week. I'm gonna toot my own horn a little bit here for a sec. I won another Best in Show last weekend in the excuse me, in Duluth, Minnesota. There was a competition called the Great Northern Brew, and I think I talked about my pre-prohibition lager at one point in time. I know I brought it to a Keepers meeting, but ended up taking Best in Show for the second time this year. I've never taken a Best in Show in beer before, and I got Drunk Monk and Brouhaha this year, and Brouhaha was about 220 entries, I think. So, just,
Well played.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
I'm so excited that you cut the feed. Well, this is awkward. Should I tell him? There we go.
No.
I was about to text you. Say,
I clicked exit on the tab. I'm like, fuck. No, I'm waiting for sheets for the competition too. They're not uploaded yet, but my score on the website says I got a 49, and so I don't know how it's broken out yet. I don't know if it's like a 48 and a 50, or if it's two 49s or what. So
48 and a half and a 49.
I know you at Beer Cup, like in 2018 or 19, you got like a 48 on your sour, right?
46 or 45 was it? I think I had a 46.
Super high.
I think I had a 46 and a 44, or 46 and a 45, or something like that.
I guess I don't also mean to bring up like annoying, troubling bullshit or whatever. I know that didn't meddle somehow.
I was just gonna say, are we talking about that? Yeah, I swear you got like a 48 and a half or some shit like that. And it was like,
I think it was 46 and a half.
Yeah, but it's you were.
Yeah, and I got an honorable mention.
Yeah, yep.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I can't believe I just had to step away and go pee because I haven't drank as much as David has, and
I think this carbonated one's going to kill me because
yeah,
it's more that I'm just my belly's full.
Yep.
And with all these with this carbon dioxide escaping out of solution, it's also doing that inside my gut.
Oh yeah.
That's why I keep muting myself, because I need to keep belching. But I'm scared that if I do a really big belch, I'm going to end up reversing.
Matt, so I entered a international dark lager that got a 44.5 and a New Zealand Pilsner that got a 38. How'd you do, man? I did. I stayed around and judged Best of Show, so I know the top 4 beers. I can't give them away. I know that it wasn't me, and I know that it wasn't anybody that I know. Well, maybe. I don't know what you entered, so I can't say anything regardless. But there were some good beers in the Best of Show there. Excuse me. Did you?
I was gonna say I'm super sad because since I was looking at moving, like all my shit's been packed up, and I haven't been brewing. So like everything's packed up. Like even Glint Cap, I don't even know if that's still open. I've still got a bunch of ciders, but like my kegerator's broken down. Everything. I don't really have a spot to put it right now. So I'm just kind of out of commission. Yeah. For even the competitions. I might be up. Well, no, even Homebrew Fest or the Beer Cups earlier this year. So I'm probably going to be out for. This is probably just a wash year for me in terms of competitions.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to come out this summer?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah. Okay.
That's for sure. All depends on what goes on with the job market.
Yeah. Yep. That's fair. Matt Mead said cream ale 37.5 and Australian sparkling ale 39. That's fucking respectable.
Those
for
are
sure.
those are great scores.
Oh my god, that cream ale score, that's like a half point under getting a silver, right? I think Siciliano's judges, it's like bronze, silver, gold based on score. Something like that. You said both got 40 score sheets. One judge liked the other. Yeah, not so much. Yeah, that's the way it works. This is, I think I've been entering Siciliano since like 2017. And this is the first year I've gotten a gold there. I don't think I've ever gotten a gold medal from Siciliano's. So,
I don't think I've ever entered Sicilianos.
really, I swear you
Yeah.
have. Just O'Connor's then?
Yeah, I was
'Cause
the
I know you got
O'Connor.
some good prizes from O'Connor's before.
Yeah, yep, yeah. That was O'Connor's. I took what was it, second or third best of show?
Yeah,
I
I
came
think it
around.
was second. Yeah.
Yeah, came away with quite a bit on that, and that's still a beer I brew every so often. In fact, I might do it again here with a little bit of a rye addition.
What was the beer?
It was just pale ale, just a pretty standard pale ale with a little bit of. I'd have to look at the recipe, but I'm pretty sure I used like Chinook as my bittering, and then just a little bit, and then I can't recall what hops I used. I'd have to look at my recipe, but I still brew it.
I think the year you took that, I got a gold in something. You brought back a bunch of prizes. And I think I got like an Omega yeast hat that I really liked.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
year. I'm pretty sure I remember you give me that hat.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So that was an interesting year with the way they did prizes, because they had like prize bags, and I was like, oh, Brian's got something, I got some. So I went up and I grabbed our stuff. And I got there and they slid me a second bag. I'm like, there's 3 bags here. I only got 2 medals that I'm picking up for. And I was like, oh no, you also got, you placed in best of show. I was like, oh, great. That's awesome.
Yeah. You got like a big ass bag of malt and shit, right? Like,
yeah. So there was, what was it? I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I want to say there was like this weird bag of like brown malt, or no, it was like some sort of Irish malt, I want to say. And that's something I'd never really seen or heard of before. And I used that to brew my stout the following year that ended up taking gold at homebrew, or at the Michigan Beer Cup.
yeah.
So
that I think ended up beating Jason in Irish Stout, right?
yes, yeah. Well, okay. I mean, there's some other stories there. I don't want to get into it, but I did take gold. I'll take it. He presented it to me, so it's a special point in my life. And
I think Jason had like medal or taken gold in like Irish Stout, like maybe the 2 years prior to that or something, and
yeah,
and then yep.
Dethroned.
Yeah. Did Keeper sweep Irish Stout? Was that the year that like you, me, and Jason like all medaled in Irish Stout or something?
No, we almost swept it.
Okay.
And that's what I was trying to bring up, because Jason didn't
Oh!
medal because they think they lost his entries.
That's right. Oh no, I forgot about that. Oh no.
Yeah, we probably would have swept it though. That's
yeah.
It was you and me took gold and silver, and I can't recall who took third. But
that's too bad. Anyway, beer cup. Find some shit you have in bottles already, Jordan.
I do have some.
Yeah,
I'll submit something.
Just throw some stuff in. Don't waste money. If you know some stuff that you have is like nasty, don't waste the money on it. But
yeah, I don't have anything that's like gonna be super great. Not right now. I'm if when the bottle's got to be turned in for that.
Not for a while. Registration ends on the 8th of June, and then bottle turn-in is from the 9th until the 22nd of June.
Oh, I got planned. I plan on doing 2 brews here within the next few weeks, 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I want to do that pale ale, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a rye. I've got a bunch of rye I'm sitting on, so do a rye IPA, and then I want to do a lager. I've got stuff to brew Vienna, so we'll see how those turn out.
Yes. Were you cracking something, David? I saw you thought I saw a twist of the wrist. Okay, still just trying. Is that the carbonated one? I think you're muted somewhere.
Yeah, he's muted.
There we go.
Yeah,
there it is.
If you've been talking, David, I'm so sorry.
No,
yeah,
no,
we haven't.
Attention, okay?
I did have to step away to break the seal.
Okay.
Hey, finally!
Yeah.
All right. Did I
think
break
that's why
it
I was
first? Is
muted.
Brian? Are you still going?
Beer?
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
I haven't
look,
stepped away, but this is only beer number 4.
Oh, well, I'm
So
on
not too
5.
bad.
So
Yeah. Not too bad. Are you thinking about turning anything in, David, for beer cup this year?
I need to brew.
Yeah.
I haven't brewed since last year.
Yeah. Well, you've also had a lot going on in life. So
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yep.
Everybody, it's a hobby, and everybody gets to brew at their own leisure, and
Yep.
it's not a job. It's something that's
Yeah, I
supposed
want
to
to
make
do
you
my
happy. So
I want to do my dark mild again. I want to do it. I want to do a pale ale. I just like having a pale ale on tap.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't be dealing with sours and that anymore. So I basically need to tear my kegerator down so that I can get rid of my sour tap.
Yeah. Was it a couple years ago that you had like the dragon fruit sour explosion out in your driveway?
Yeah. Yep.
That might have even been like the last time you were on the show. I think like that you told that story that it happened recently. Like,
Yes, that was a mess. It was a pretty mess, but
did it come out of like a fermenter, or like I don't even remember like what happened. I just remember it was dragon fruit and like there was a mess.
it was in a. I think I fermented it in the keg or something.
Okay.
No, I need to plug in my PC. I think it was in the keg, and I tried to get out of it, and it wouldn't. It was so pressurized when I popped the lid, it wouldn't do anything. So I went to, and then I tried to pop the poppet on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it all gunked up because of all the dragon fruit pulp that was in there. And that was when I turned the. I thought, well, if I just crack the airline, then it'll behave itself. Well, it didn't, and it was so much pressure in it. That even though I only cracked it like quarter of a turn,
Oh no!
there was so much pressure. It must have just like unspun it, and then
That's crazy.
The airline. I found it in the street.
Like the PRB, the pressure release valve in the middle of your lid.
No. I've got pin locks. So
okay.
I literally just cracked the air the airline.
The post or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it spun the post off, and the post ended up in the street.
God.
And then the actual the actual short line for the gas in that also fired off, and I found that in my lawn.
Oh my God.
But then of course it was just this jet of pink purple beer. Just
didn't like cover your car and shit. Like
it did cover my car and shit. Yeah. it was dragon fruit pips all over it. The beer was lovely, but
yeah. It's too bad like Ring doorbell cameras and stuff weren't like quite as prevalent as at the time. Or
I'm also surprised that the neighbours didn't complain, because clearly I wasn't just, oh, what has transpired.
Yeah.
My language was a little fruitier than that.
Oh no. Are you on the last water?
No, I'm still on the carbonated. I do have just the regular spring water, and then
Okay. I think maybe we wrap it up. I think
Yeah.
unless you want to crack the spring water and give us the raving review.
Okay, hang on. That's my.
I appreciate you being on tonight, though.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
fun.
I appreciate it.
The show went on for over 2 hours, and it doesn't feel like that long to me. And those are the ones
No.
that are fun for me because it doesn't feel like it went on for that long. Sometimes we go on for an hour. It's like, oh god, it felt like we had to slog through it or something. But no, tonight it was very much.
I mean, a complete
chill.
fanny. I can't get this one open. Right, hang on. Okay, so I just.
Use your teeth.
No, I just twisted the top off. Right, I'm just going to drink this one out of the bottle because I still got some in there.
Well, David's chugging that water.
It tastes like bottled water.
It tastes like bottled water. and there you have it, folks.
It's
so
not.
your favorite water tonight was still the 7.4 or whatever?
I think 7.4 was my favourite. Then the I actually quite like the Dasani.
Oh, there you go,
Then-
Brian.
All right. I feel vilified.
Then probably Gordon's. Yeah, the sparkling water was a completely different beast anyway, but
Mhm.
so I'm not including that in my side by side. The worst was definitely the 9.5. And I need to change my Brita filters.
Beautiful. Well, Michigan Beer Cup is still open. Again, closes 6/8, so get your entries in. Use RO water at least once. Give it a try. Like, I know that this mostly goes out to our local Michigan folks and stuff like that. It's mostly just a Keepers of Craft podcast. Totally fine. But for everybody that's listening or watching or whatever, try RO if you haven't or don't already. I feel like we've sort of converted the majority of our brewers to using some sort of filter, which is, I mean, probably just in the last like 6 to 8 years, kind of a drastic difference in brewing. Talk to us, reach out to like Michigan Brews or Keepers of Craft or whatever if you have any questions on like using any of the water calculator software out there. We're totally here to help. And other than that, I guess cheers and drink your water, and congratulations, David, for drinking so much fucking water and only having one bathroom break tonight.
Most hydrated on the show ever.
Yeah, there's this is 100% a benchmark to be broken, probably. Yeah. So
Cheers, guys.
y'all. Cheers, David. Stick around a little bit
Cheers.
after, and we'll be here for a little bit. But have a good night, all.
Good night.
Night.